Hello, this is the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Also, check out my other channel, The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. There will be a link for that as well. There are 2 executions scheduled for September 25th of this year. One is Blaine Keith Milam in Texas, who is 35 years old. A very young age these days for someone being sent to the execution chamber. A video on the case of Blaine Milam will appear on this channel next week. The other execution on September 25th is that of 50-year-old Geoffrey Todd West in Alabama, the case we will be discussing today. For those of you who have seen my videos in the past year or so, you'll understand why I'm saying this. Oh my God, another convenience store robbery murder. Geoffrey West, in the year 1997, was 21 years old and heavily addicted to drugs. And not only was he heavily addicted to drugs, he was on parole after serving a prison sentence that got him released early on parole recently. West had once worked at a convenience store and gas station called Harold's Chevron, located in Attalla, Alabama. That station is no longer there. This is what that property looked like in later years, now called Jet Pep. And I think that's not there anymore, or it's called something else. Because West worked at that convenience store, he knew that behind the service counter was a cookie jar that always contained about $200 in petty cash. Well, now that he no longer worked at that convenience store, he decided one night that he needed money for drugs, and he was going to go in there and rob the store and get that money from the cookie jar. And he told people about his plans. And because West had robbed other stores in the past and spent time in prison because of it, because a convenience store clerk had identified him, he also told those same people that this time he will leave no witnesses. Geoffrey West had a girlfriend at the time. Her name was Amy Pierce. And late on the night of March 27, 1997, Amy Pierce agreed to drive West to Harold's Chevron station, knowing full well what his plans were. Geoffrey West was armed with a .45 caliber handgun. Once inside, West confronted the store clerk, a 33-year-old woman named Margaret Parrish Berry. Geoffrey West ordered Margaret to lay on the floor face down. He then took the money from the cookie jar behind the counter and also shot Margaret in the back of the head, killing her. West then got back in the car and his girlfriend, Amy Pierce, drove them out of there. This crime was solved in less than 24 hours. Now, I don't see in any of the case files where surveillance cameras had anything to do with solving this case. In 1997, very few gas stations around the country had surveillance cameras. They were not very common yet. It does show in the reports, however, that investigators had developed a theory that the robber and killer must have been a former employee. That theory probably came about because of the $250 removed from a cookie jar behind the counter. Who else would have known about that? Also, we know from the reports that Geoffrey West had bragged to friends about what he was going to do and later bragged about what he had done. He liked to talk. So, obviously, one or more of those friends had snitched. Here we see a comment made by an attorney during closing arguments of Geoffrey West's trial, which took place 2 years later in 1999. You have got the statement that was given up here by Donna Mitchell, and you have heard her testimony. They never would have even got to Geoff West if she had not been there and not noticed, and no one would have known, and this case would have probably gone unsolved, or at least it would have been a lot longer before it was solved. It is not often you have a capital case solved within 24 hours from the time it occurs. Prosecutors had also charged West's girlfriend, Amy Pierce, with the robbery and murder. However, she pleaded guilty and agreed to testify against Geoffrey West, who, even after bragging all around town about what he had done, was denying that he had anything to do with it. Amy Pierce was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Now, Amy Pierce was arrested in 1997. That's 28 years ago. There currently is no record of Amy Pierce incarcerated in Alabama, so it appears she was released early. As a matter of fact, there is a post on Facebook where someone named Amy Pierce sent photos in March of the year 2024, last year, to a weather reporter of her house being demolished after a storm in Attalla, Alabama. I don't have confirmation that this is the same Amy Pierce, but it just doesn't seem likely to me for there to be two Amy Pierces in the same small town of Attalla where Geoffrey West and his girlfriend had lived and where the gas station was located. And if this is the same Amy Pierce, it looks like karma is still kicking her butt after being released from prison. In 1999, a jury voted 10-2 for the death penalty for Geoffrey West. And, like I said, he is set to be put to death on September 25th of this year. After being found guilty during the sentencing hearing to determine if he should get life in prison without parole or the death penalty, his lawyer began arguing during the mitigation phase, arguing why West should not be put to death. It was reported that West pulled his lawyer back down to his seat and told him to not say another word. West would say that if he wasn't found innocent, then he doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison. I guess a life without drugs was unacceptable to him. Anyway, the jury gave him his wish and he was sentenced to death, though he might not be too happy that it took 27 years for the execution to be carried out. He has appealed his conviction multiple times over the years, trying to get out of prison, but that didn't go anywhere for him. Unfortunately, once again, I don't have a lot of information on the victim in this case. While every report on this case, including court files and everything else, show her name as Margaret Parrish Berry, a site that does memorials has her name as Laney Margaret Parrish. It gives her age as 33, born in 1963, and her parents' names. Another report shows that Margaret was a Mormon, a regular member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The report states that she was a wonderful mother to her two sons, who must be the two boys that appear in this picture with her, and that she was married to a man named Rodney Berry. And it says that her mother's name was Laney Parrish. So there are apparently all kinds of mix-ups on the internet with that name. Once again, an innocent, young human being was killed by someone needing drugs. The need for drugs. Once again, the motive. Please remember to hit the subscribe button for more of these death row and upcoming execution stories so that you're alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye for now.